I'm going to focus on those reports, setting up those reports that we'll be able to save our settings and be able to use in other areas within the staff portal as well as the teacher portal. So I'm not going to touch on all of our reports, but these are really good day-to-day operations that you would, reports that you want to set up. So I'm going to click, first we're going to look at the daily attendance bulletin. And we can find that when I click on scheduling, and it's our first option under reports. So that would be the daily attendance bulletin. All right, so most of our setup is going to happen on that first tab, and we'll talk about the default MS Bulletin in just a minute. But we want to select the date that our bulletin is going to be run for. Now when we save our settings, it's automatically going to default to the current date. So when we're looking to configure the setup for our teachers, we don't have to worry about that. Letting it land on the current date is fine. But what codes do we want our teachers to be able to see? Or, you know, when we want people to pull up this attendance bulletin, which codes are we most concerned with? So I definitely want to include absent, college visits. That's important information. So if a student is actually, they would be considered present for the day, but they would be on a field trip. So college visits, unexcused. Do we want to include dismissed or unexcused dismissed? So these are questions that you need to think about as to what you want to show up. So all I'm seeing here are all of my daily attendance codes. I think I need to scroll down to get to the rest of them. Here we go. So I'm just going to include everything, but you will want to make sure that you include the codes that you want. Now one thing I will, I checked and I really don't want is to include the code that indicates present. My daily attendance bulletin, I want to flag only those students that are not in the building today. I can add an optional report title if I want, and I can also enter a note to print at the bottom of the bulletin. Now this is something that I can change on a daily basis, quarterly basis, monthly basis, but when the teachers pull up this bulletin, they're going to see that announcement. Now the next tab is to set up the bulletin. Now the bulletin, there's a lot going on here depending on how the font that you select. So I'm over on the right side here. If you choose, if I go from the 10-point font to the 8-point font, look at the total number of characters allowed. Wait for it to refresh. And I have 90 now, and now I have 112. But for those of us who are 50 plus, that 10-point font is looking pretty good. I prefer the larger print now. I'm showing my age. We can include the number of columns that's in the report. And then if we want to break the report based on a biographical field, we can add that in here. So for example, if you wanted to have a break by year of graduation, or if you wanted to break out the attendance bulletin by homeroom, you could do that also. Let's go back to and there's a lot going in here, so these are all the fields that you can pull in, and you need to be mindful of the number of characters for each field. So the attendance note is going to take up 50 characters, and I've only got 90 characters allowed. So I may want to rethink pulling that in. So this can be overwhelming. What I like is that we give you a default MMS bulletin. So I'm going to click that. It's not going to change my codes at all. It's just going to be dealing more with the setup bulletin. So here I have it set so that it is that the default bulletin is going to have the student's name, last name, followed by first name and middle initial. It's going to have the attendance code, the first time in, the first time out, consecutive absences, cumulative absences, the age of the student, the grade level, and their homeroom number. So this gives you a great place to start with, and then you can modify from here if this doesn't quite suit your needs. So we can see here that we have 90 characters allowed. We're using currently 85, and we have 5 characters remaining. Now, where we're saving this for the teacher portal and the staff portal, we would want to save different settings, because in the configuration it's going to allow us to pull in settings. Now if we want the same settings for both portals, that's fine. We may want to, possibly have a different message to print for teachers as opposed to staff members. I actually saved some settings, so let's pull those back and see what I have for information here. So I'm going to start with my teacher portal settings, and I'm just going to restore those. If you haven't seen the save settings, recall settings, it's actually all in one operation now, which is really nice. To save a setting, you can add a new setting by clicking on that button. It'll come up with a generic name. You just save the name, change the name to something more meaningful, and then click Save, and your settings are saved. If I want to recall a saved setting, all I have to do is click on the refresh screen or the refresh symbol there. And then here I have a message saying that my settings have been successfully recalled for the teacher portal. So I'm going to close there. So I have a fun report title, the MMS Wildcats. And then I have Good Morning Teachers of MMS High School. Here is the daily attendance report for today. And let me recall my staff portal. I think it's probably pretty similar. There's my staff portal, so I'm just going to recall those. My message up here changed. No, just minor variations. Good morning, staff of MMS High School. So like I said, you don't have to worry about the bulletin date. MMS will automatically pull the current date, and you just need to make sure that you select the codes that you want displayed. And it could be that you have a different set of codes for the teachers as opposed to your staff that are accessing the staff portal. So that's our first report. Let's look at our next report is going to be for the teacher online status report. Now this one will be used or accessed through the staff portal, not the teacher portal. So again, I'm going to click on my attendance menu. Under reports, I am going to go to the teacher's online status report. So this report will allow you to see those teachers who have gone on and taken attendance, whether they've marked the classes all present or whether they've gone back and confirmed attendance. So we have, again, our optional report title if we want to use that. We have our teacher range. Now, this is your full staff listing. So I have some staff members in here that are clearly not teachers. I have a bus driver, I have a citizen, I have a resource officer in here. Did I just see janitor? So I don't want to include my janitor in here. Wonderful person, but does not teach classes or take daily attendance. So I'm going to deselect all of those. They are not teachers and are not going to be taking daily attendance. All right, so I think I've removed all of those that I need to. So I'm going to click on OK, and it tells you right here how many teachers you have selected. And the date range, you can set that to a week or a day. It's going to default to the current date, both the start and end date. And then you have different report options. I am in my high school right now, and my high school does not have homeroom attendance set up. We use class attendance during period 2 to have that be captured as my daily attendance. So I cannot check the homeroom attendance option. I can select the class period attendance, but because I don't have homeroom, it's also not going to let me select the bottom option. If you have both class attendance and homeroom daily attendance, you will be able to choose which options or both if you want to pull that in to the report. We can report for only teachers who have not submitted an attendance data. So you want to try to get a hold of the teachers who haven't or habitually don't go in and do their attendance. If you have it set to no, it's going to be all of your teachers. And then you can choose the order of the report by either the teacher name or the teacher ID. Select the starting date and ending date periods, or the starting and ending periods. So if you are interested in only morning attendance and seeing how those teachers are doing, or a specific period, you would set the start and ending period to be the same period. I actually have 9 periods during my school day, so I'm going to have it start with period 1 and end with period 9. Now, if you had 9 periods, but period 9 was an after-school club's time, then you would probably want to limit it to period 8. And again, because we're setting this up to be used as a shortcut in the staff portal, you're going to want to save your settings. And I already have one saved, so I'm not going to save that again. But let's take a look at the report while we're here. So we're going to print. And I meant to go out as my teacher and actually confirm some attendance, and I didn't. So not being a real school, I don't have any attendance that was actually logged in, and we could actually come back and view this report after I log in as my teacher, and I'll go in and confirm some attendance. I think he is down on, okay, so Stephen Hobble is my teacher that I generally log in as, and you can see that class attendance not recorded. So he hasn't gone out and done anything yet. So I'm going to go out and when we log into the teacher portal and actually come back into the staff portal, and you can see how things have changed. All right, the next report that I'm going to cover is the attendance student record listing. And we're going to click on attendance reports, and we are going to look at the attendance student record listing, which is the second option down. And we have our optional report title. We have a student range, so and student range would not get saved as part of the save settings. when you are in the teacher portal and accessing this, they are going to be limited to the class that they are filtered on, and that's what their student range is going to be. We have a date range. It does default to the first day of school in your calendar, and the end date is the current date. We have some options that we can, data that we can choose to pull in. So we can include the daily attendance notes. That is the note specific to the daily attendance code that they received on that day. We can include the entry, withdrawal, re-entry data. So that's the overall entry of when the student comes into the school at the beginning of the year, or if they joined partway through the year. Include attendance total. So it's going to give us an a total attendance total. We can include inactive students for attendance. So that is a choice for the school to determine whether they think it would be useful for teachers when they pull up this attendance student record listing to include students who are inactive for attendance. And you get into that with a lot of state reporting. And then we can choose to start a new page for each student. I didn't have that selected. In addition to starting a new page for each student, if you choose not to do that, you can indicate a biographical field that you would want to break on for a new page. So year of graduation would be a field for that, and as soon as you select one, you can, this is another way of limiting the number of students that you're working with rather than using the student range or a filter, is that if you start a new page on, for example, year of graduation, I can say that I want to start with 2017 and end with 2018 YOG. So I'm only going to get those 2 year levels, and everybody else is going to be filtered out. So it's an option, and you know that your report's going to break when the value of YOG changes. And I'm going to click on settings this time, and you can see here that I have a setting saved for my daily student attendant record listing. So I'm not going to, well, actually I'll recall that one. I don't think there was anything that different than what I had here. Nope, looks pretty much the same. I chose not to save, choose a field to break on a new page, and I did not enter in a report title. And I actually saved this yesterday, and you can see that the end date is now the current date. So dates generally do not save with the save settings. And we're going to look at another one. This is going to be the class attendance version of this report, and that is found in attendance reports. The first grouping for this whole menu item, the top half is more related to daily attendance. Anything beyond this or underneath this line would be more class attendance related. So we're going to look at the class attendance student record listing, very similar to what we had. We do have the report title. It's just arranged a little bit differently. So the report title is over here at the end. We still have our student range available to us, but the teachers will be filtered on the course that they have active in their filter. We have a date range. Again, the starting date is going to default to the first day of the school calendar, and the ending date is going to be the current date. We have some options right here, fewer options than what we saw with the daily version of this. We can include class attendance notes and also include the class attendance totals. We can also start a new page for each student. We also have the option of selecting a biographical field to start a new page on, and then if we choose a field, we can say starting with this value and ending with a specific value. We have the select starting and ending periods, so I have my starting with period 1, ending with period 9, which is what I want. And then we have another option here, and this is what you would see when you're doing the attendance configuration. So for classes that meet for more than one period on the same day, so say you have a double period of biology, do we want to report that class just once per class or once per class period? If it's once per class period, you're going to get one for each period. So for a double period, it's going to be reported out twice. And I do have settings already saved for this one. And here I have class attendance record listing for teacher portal. I like to put, for staff portal, for teacher portal, just so that when I am recalling those settings in the configuration, I know what I'm looking at and I will get the right setting. All right, so next we're going to look at the how we can configure the attendance in the staff portal, and we're just talking for this webinar, we're talking about reporting. So we're actually going to go to our Manage menu item. Under Configuration Jobs, we're going to click on Configure Attendance. Now there's a lot going on in this one operation. The options that you see here to the left are almost identical to what you would see in the database configuration through MMS generations, but what we really want to focus on is the select save settings for records. And we have 5 settings that we can save, and they were all relating to the reports that we just looked at. So this is the bulletin for staff users. So it's a save setting that we'll be able to pull up here in the staff portal. So for my daily attendance bulletin, you can see here I have 4 different save settings. Very clearly that this is the one for the staff portal. For the teacher's status report for staff users, I only have one. Oh, actually I do have a couple of settings here, but this was the one that I set up specifically for the staff portal. And we will take a look at how that report comes up. Then we have the attendance student record listing for teachers, and I only have one setting there. And then I have I skipped over the bulletin for teachers. So it's the same attendance bulletin. I have a different one. I have one for staff and I have one for teachers. We've got the attendance student record listing and then also the class attendance record listing. And again, I used my little hint to myself that, this is the one that I saved and set up for the teacher portal. Also lets people know that if they have access to my save settings and they have the ability to edit them, that they probably don't want to edit the one for the teacher portal because it was set very specifically. So there aren't very many times that you actually see a save button in the portals, but this is one. So once you have entered in all of these settings, you will want to make sure that you hit save. Now before I hit save, and I am really not good about checking where I am when I log in, is you want to make sure that you are in the correct school and the correct school year. And I was planning on doing this for the high school, so I was in the right school, and so I'm going to hit save. And I just get an alert message confirming what I just saved. So it's the attendance configuration, save for the high school for the current school year. All right, so I'm going to log out of here, and I'm actually going to go to my teacher portal, and we're going to take a look at some of the attendance reports that we just set up here, but also look at a few other reports that require no setup from the staff portal. All right, so to access the attendance reports, we're going to click on the attendance menu item, and then we're going to click on View. Now this actually gives you gives the teachers access to more than just attendance reports. So if I look at, and I want to say all of these reports, with the exception of one that I'm going to point out to you, all require either a report set up in Generations or in the staff portal. The first thing I'm going to look at is the daily attendance bulletin. So there it says report setup, but all we're really going to do is just choose the date for the bulletin. And once we have the date set, I'm going to click on print, and then it's going to switch to the view report tab. And there's all my students that I gave. So here's the report title that I put in, the MMS Wildcats. And here's the message for the bulletin. Good morning, teachers of MMS High School. And what I am looking at is actually the students. No, this would be all of the students and not just those that are in my my geometry class. But you can see this of 104 students, we have a 91% attendance rate, and it gives the excused, unexcused, and then a total absent. All right, so let's look at our next report, and the next one I was going to look at class attendance summary report. Now this one is actually not set up anywhere for the teachers. They can choose which of their classes to include, so they can select more than one if they wanted to see, you know, all of their English classes. I don't think I have any other English classes there. We can set a date range. Actually, the starting date is the first day of school and the ending date is the last day of school. So the teachers can change that range to whatever they want. Right here we have all of our class attendance codes. So I only have 4, and you know, maybe I don't want to include present. So using my control key, I can select the ones that I want and those that I don't. The report options, you know, print absent, tardy, and dismissal totals, or just print totals by attendance code. So 2 very distinct reports, and then we have our report title. There is no save setting for this, so but it's a pretty simple report. And if I click on print, so I can see for my English 9 class, this is what I have for the full year for the 6 students that I have. No absences. Ooh, very good. And then I had another English class here. So again, it gives all of the course section information, and it gives the absent. I only had 3 codes selected, so it was absent, tardy, and dismissed. So this one is actually no setup required outside of the teacher going in and setting up their settings. So we have under here also, we have the daily attendance student record listing. Now that was one that we had set up. And so that for each student, all they have to do is click on view, and they're going to see that student's daily attendance student record listing. So they can't pull up this information for the whole class, but they can view it one student at a time. And if any of these reports found under attendance, whether they're attendance related or some other module, we're very polite and we will point you in the right direction of who to bug to get it set up so that you can view the data there. Whether it needs to be set up in Generations or whether it can be set up in the staff portal. And generally, if it needs to be set up in the staff portal, there is no way of setting that up in Generations. And let's see if we click back on view. So we have the class attendance student record listing, and everything else is related to something other than attendance. Now there is another way of seeing attendance information. So if I do the enter attendance by list, and you can see I have under history, I have a little icon of a outline of a person with a report behind them. Because I had the class attendance record, student record listing set up and saved for the teacher portal, if I click on this for Nicole, it's going to pull up her class attendance student record listing. So we can see for all of her classes where she received a code of absence for that particular class. All right, so I'm actually going to mark this class as all present, just so that we can see that status report, teacher online status report. Okay, and I'm going to go to English 9. And we can see that some of these students already have a daily code that's been given. I'm going to mark some as absent here, and this will be just the class attendance code. Now, since I had entered in a student as absent, I can no longer click the All Present button. If you refresh the screen, I'm using Chrome here, so that's my little refresh. Now that button becomes attendance confirmed. Now I can confirm that I've gone in. And then I'm just going to do one other class. And this is, I'm going to take some attendance, but I'm not going to click on the button. And it still does get registered. It just viewed a bit differently. All right, so I'm going to log out of here. And when we were setting up the staff portal for the attendance, there was two reports that we could save for the staff portal. And these had me a bit confused until I pulled up the help and was able to see where that came from. All right, so if I go to attendance and I go to my daily attendance entry, I have two shortcut buttons. I can print the bulletin right from here. So if I click on that, it's going to pull up the copy that I saved specifically for the staff portal. So you can see my Go MMS Wildcats, but this is Good Morning Staff of MMS High School. So this is the staff version that I've saved. And I can see all of those students that received an attendance code for today. So the same statistics that we saw in the teacher portal. And if I go back to my daily attendance entry, I have the teacher's online status report. Again, the settings that I had saved for in the configuration. So if I click on that, now Stephen Hobble, his records will look differently than what we saw earlier. So he was on page 4, I think. Nope, right here. So here for English 9, we have class attendance was recorded. So I didn't confirm, but well, English 9 actually we put in attendance and then we confirmed. But it just states here that class attendance was recorded. For my geometry, I marked everybody as being present, so we have perfect class attendance. And then in my second example, I can't remember which English class I did confirmed or just entered in attendance without confirming. And so if your teachers aren't refreshing the screen to get that confirmed attendance, as long as they go in and click on a student, then you'll see that pop-up message that, you know, a record was written to the teacher tracking table. So if they've gone out, just looked at it, and everybody was there but they did nothing, that's not going to get recorded here. So if their class is all present, please encourage them to click on the perfect class attendance. If they mark people as absent, it will get captured here that they went in and took attendance. So the next thing I want to look at is 3 year-end reports that are good to run for attendance. And those are in MMS Generations. So I'm just going to minimize this and I'm going to open up my generations, which I'm already logged into. So here we're going to cover 3 different reports. One of them is the attendance register report, and then we have the statistical matrix report, and then the entry withdrawal reports. Now before I go into the attendance register report, it's very important that you have your daily attendance code set up correctly. So I'm going to click on my daily attendance. I'm going to go to more attendance editing jobs, and I'm going to go to my edit daily attendance codes. So for this report to give you the detailed information that hopefully you're looking for is you need to have a short code set up for each of your attendance codes. Now you can see I have some repeated letters. I mean, I think it gets kind of confusing if you have a lot of different letters. So I have, you know, dismissed, and then I have dismissed unexcused, and I have them both being listed as D. Family trip and field trip are actually pretty different. So I'm going to delete that and put the F for the family trip. I don't think I have any others that are F, so I should be okay. Oh, I think I put E for excused, which would be college visits, family trips, field trips. So that was the logic behind that. So given that, I'm going to put field trip back as E for excused. So just very important that you have those short codes entered in. So I'm going to save and exit, and now I'm going to go into that attendance register report. So that is found under daily attendance reporting jobs. It's going to be under more attendance reporting jobs. And there's the attendance register report. All right, so there are a lot of setup to this. So you have 3 different areas where you can set up a start and an end date. The starting dates will all default to the first day of school. The first 2 will default to the current date, and Obviously, for the year-to-date totals, it's going to be, it's going to default to the end date of the last day of school. Now, because we're talking about end of year reporting, you really want to make sure that you are set to that last day of school. So I'm just going to set mine accordingly. So the first is for the student detail area. Then we have the current period totals, and then we have year-to-date totals. And all of these will make a lot more sense once we get the report printed and we look at it in detail. We have the detail area format. Those detail lines, the detail line area for the student, we can have 1 month per line, or we could limit it to 4 weeks per line or 5 weeks per line. I really like the default of 1 month per line, so I know as I'm looking across that, you know, my first line in my report is going to be August, followed by September, and, you know, just at a glance, I have my month totals, which is why I like that. We can select a field to subtotal on. So right now, it's going to be it's just going to go through all of my students, but if I wanted to have a subtotal by homeroom or year of graduation is probably more likely, I can select that, and just like what we saw with the attendance reports in the staff portal, once we select a biographical field to subtotal on, then we can choose which starting value and which ending value we want. I actually am going to do year of graduation just so that we can see what the subtotals are going to look like. And you'll notice that my starting value is blank. I actually have some students, I think I have 2 that don't have a year of graduation. So we'll just eliminate them from the report, and we're going to start with 2016 and we're going to end with 2019. Some schools use register codes. They are found when you're editing the entry and withdrawal codes for a student. You have the option of selecting up to 9 or 10 register codes. And those register codes can indicate a program that your students are involved in, or if they're from out of district and you want to indicate which district, sending district they're from. A lot of times when you do have students from out of district, you need to send a report to the sending school, you know, on their attendance. So we give you that ability where you can have up to 9 or 10 register codes. You can select multiple register codes, and then you have 2 options here to include students who have all of the selected codes. So if I chose 2, that student would have to have those 2 codes entered in, or include students who have any of the selected codes. And with all of our reports, we have our user-defined report title. All right, so my first student actually has perfect attendance. You can see it's broken down by month here in the detail area. So Jessica has an entry date of 8/3/2015. This is broken out by month, which I absolutely like. And then if she had had any attendance codes, that 1 letter code would show up. So we have, depending on the month, up to 5 weeks, and that 1 letter code would show up, line up with the date or the session day that it was applied. So we have multiple columns of data here. So we have here the total number of days possible for each month. So in August, I had 21 session days. Jessica was present all 21 days, so she had no absences, no tardies, and was not dismissed. And she was a member for all of those 21 days. All right, trying to find somebody who has some attendance here. All right, so these aren't really huge examples. I can't understand where, oh, Amy is an upperclassman. All right, so we'll try to find her. She has a lot of attendance. So in the month of December, during Tuesday of week 3, we can see that Corey was absent on that day, so that's where the letter A came in. And if you're looking at his totals, we can see that there was a total number of days present of 23. He had 22, 1 day absent. And then we have, so this is the detail area where we set our starting and ending dates. Then we have our current, which I changed to the end of the school year. So it's going to give totals down here. So for the school year, I have a total of 257 days present. The student was absent twice, so he has only a 255 days present with 2 days absent. None tardy, no dismissed, and no non-member days. And then we also have our year-to-date, which when you run this at the end of the year, the current and the year-to-date is going to be the same. So you could run this, mid-year and, do it by quarter. So the current would have the quarter dates, and year-to-date would be the beginning of the year to the current date, or actually to the end of the day, end of the school year. So let's scoot all the way to the end so that you can see the we have the subtotals by year of graduation. So this looks like a huge number, but for the number of students given the times the 257 days possible, that's where that number comes from. There's quite a bit there. And we can see that we have only 20 absences for the whole year of graduation class, class of 2019, and we had 6 non-member days. Now, non-member day would be if you had a student join your school year in December, then from August 3rd till December, whenever they joined your school, those days would be considered non-member days for that student. And then we have our grand totals down here. The next report that I am going to look at is the statistical matrix report. So again, we're going to click on daily attendance, more attendance reports, and the statistical matrix. Attendance statistical matrix report. I wasn't expecting the attendance there. Not as much setup involved in this one. This school actually has multiple calendars, so I can choose to run this report against all of my calendars, or I can limit it to just one calendar. That is up to you. The starting date is going to default to the first day of your calendar, and the ending date is going to be the current date. So if you are running this at year end, you will want to make sure that it would default to the last day of school, because you'd be running it out of, after that last day of school, so that would be the last possible date that it could select. We have our user-defined report title. And just like the prior report, we could limit the students by the register codes. So we could select one or more register codes, and then we can indicate that include only students who have all of the selected codes or just any of the selected codes. This one goes fairly quick, so I'm going to leave my student range intact. All right, so this is going to give us a breakdown by month for the calendar that we selected. And up here, it's going to give the number of males, number of females, the totals. So for our males for the month of August, we had 5,050 days present. Now remember, the number of days in the session is 21 for the month of August. So you take the number of male students that I have, multiply it by 21, and their days present, and you'll get that amount. So I have more females than males. So that's what that total is here. It's going to give us excused absences and unexcused absences. And we'll review in just a minute how it knows which code is an excused absence and which one is not. So we have our total absences, so that's both the excused and unexcused added together. We have tardy and dismissed. So we have what the number of days in the session are, the number of sessions, and then the number of days in the session. If you are from New Hampshire, each day has 2 sessions, and then so the number of sessions for New Hampshire would be 42, but the number of days in the session would be 21. So we have our average daily attendance and then our average daily membership, and then we have our percent in attendance. And it goes through that for each month. And if I zip to the end, it's going to give us our grand totals. So I can see that for my school and my school year, I have an attendance rate of 99.9. So the last report that I want to look at is the entry withdrawal reports. And I'm going to access that through I need to close this first, thinking I was in the staff portal here. So I'm going to go to daily, more attendance reports, and I'm going to go to the entry withdrawal reports. And it is plural for a reason. We have 3 different reports that we're going to look at. And I'm actually going to set this to my end of school, because this is year-end reporting that we're talking about here. So we're going to do a tally by code. And depending on which option you have selected here, you'll have additional setup. But for my tally by code, I have no setup other than a user-defined report, title, and the date range. I do have a student range that I can set up. This one went really fast. So here are all of my entry and withdrawal codes. So I can see that for my E1, my student enrollment, I have 241 males and 259 females for a total of 500. I don't think I have too many other. I do have my withdrawal codes, so let's see if I can't find a withdrawal. All right, so this must be the one withdrawal that I have for Amy for a W6. So it gives the code, the description that's entered in for either the entry or the withdrawal code, and then we have the total. So we see the breakdown by male, females, and we also have a total. This one does not give you the option of limiting by register codes, but you could, if you needed to do that, you could set a filter that would do that for you. All right, so if I click on my dump EWR codes, I have the option to select a field to start a new page on. So if I wanted to do this by grade level or by year of grad or by homeroom, I could do that by selecting the field. So this is biographical fields that we're talking about. So if I do YOG, there we go. And this is just going to be a dump, so of those records. All right, so here's my one student that doesn't have a year of graduation. And here I have the my year grad of 2016. So we've got the student ID number, the student name, their entry code, entry date. If they had a withdrawal code, it would be listed here, as well as the date. And then if they had any register codes assigned to them, they would be listed there. And then we have the calendar ID, the calendar that is associated with the student. And if I keep going, just click until I get to 2017, and if I go back a page, well, that's a pretty full page, but it could have printed more students here, but because the year of graduation changed, it started a new page and changed the value in the header. And the list by code, it's only one code at a time. Again, we can choose to select a biographical field to start a new page on, and then we can run this one code at a time. So I have quite a few students that are E1, so if I print that, it's going to be all my students that have E1. And we can still see here that we have the YOG field selected here, and it's going to give the code and the date they received the code. And it does give a total of how many students were in that category. Now I happen to know my other code that I have is a W6, so if I choose that one and run the report, I've got my one student. And it's not going to give the entry code, it's just giving me the students that have this particular entry withdrawal code.